Thank you, Judge. It's a pleasure to be here. I am Dawn Buckingham, and I would ask you for your vote. I am running for the Senate to decrease the footprint of government we feel in our everyday lives. You know, as a mom, when I look at the world that our kids are inheriting, it is frightening. It is time to stand up and fight for their futures. And then as a physician, the government makes it so tricky for me to take the best care possible of my patients. And it makes it even more difficult for me to run my small business. So just a few housekeeping things so you can know a little bit more about me. I have my wonderful husband of 24 years who's sitting up here next to my mom, who we all live in this neighborhood. We have a senior and a sophomore at Lake Travis High School. I'm a practicing ophthalmologist with offices in Austin and Marble Falls. And anyone who's known me for any period of time will tell you I am someone who stands up for what's right, whether or not that's the easy or popular thing to do. And one such example of that is I was quoted in Bloomberg News just a few years ago as saying that Obamacare was going to bring about the complete downfall of the healthcare system. And shortly after that, about 10 days, and I'm sure completely unrelated, I had a series of audits started against me. Everyone laughs, that's not funny. But one audit, not just one audit, but 4 audits. So I know what it's like to speak the truth, and I know what it's like to have people come after you for that. But I will continue to do that because it is the right thing to do, and it is what we need from our elected officials. I also have a proven history of cutting government. On the Sunset Commission's Lieutenant Governor's appointee, we looked at 24 state agencies, and I voted to get rid of 8 of them, and identified $120 million in savings to the taxpayers. So I'm the conservative in this race who will stand up and fight for what's right with a proven history of cutting government, and also the one to be very excited to be endorsed by strong conservatives such as Governor Perry and former Land Commissioner Jerry Patterson. And with that, I'd ask you for your vote. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Susan King. I'm running for Senate District 24 as well, one of the 6, and I'm currently the chairman of Veterans and Defense Affairs for the Texas House of Representatives. I'm serving in my 5th term. As I've done in other forums, I would like for everyone who's active duty reserve or a veteran to please stand so we may honor you with your service, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you for your service. I do this every night because what happens, we all understand about water and transportation, education, and other things that people are concerned about. But how many times do we think of our veterans and our military infrastructure, which the federal government is not helping us with very much at this time? If you have a military installation, of course you think about it, but if not, sometimes we look away, unless it's Veterans Day or if we're saying the pledge or singing our national anthem. I think that's wrong. I would tell you, I'm a business owner, I'm a working surgical nurse. I'm married to my original husband, 39 years. I have 3 children, 4 grandchildren, and it's not easy being alive in today's society. But I will tell you that the reason I'm running for the Senate, I love my House district. I've been very successful. I've chaired 2 committees, and I really like this. But this is an opportunity that I felt was something I needed to do. So my daughter, who's getting her PhD in political science, so she'll be telling me what to do shortly, said don't complain unless you're willing to stand up, and that's what I'm doing. 17 counties is a big job, 250 miles north to south, but it's worth it. What I will do for you is to listen to you, bring you to the Capitol with me. It's not enough to be a demagogue or pontificate and say what you think. You must bring your constituents and all the industry and people with concerns with you to the Capitol to make the best policy, not only for this district, Senate District 24, but the state of Texas.
People who rely on the lakes for water and a $100 billion economy are put at risk to send water to downstream farmers. What would you do to make sure that all factors are adequately considered to balance the demands of downstream farmers and upstream water users?
My mic doesn't work. Okay, there.
Susan King, I'm from the northern sector of this district, which I'd hate to say northern, that hurts my feelings. But I will tell you, we have water issues throughout this district. Here it's the Highland Lakes, other place it's no water whatsoever. Your cattle tanks are dry. You have forest fires and land range fires that require TxDOT to dip our tanks with no real promise to have it restored. So if there's legislation that needs to be done, the problem is the collaboration between municipal needs, industry, and rural. And that's the hard part. And I think the Water Development Board has made an effort with the water regions, but it's never good enough because we always want to protect our area. The problem for this district, it's so different. We have a big section of rural right in the middle. There's even evidently a pecan orchard farmer who is trying to put a dam on his property that would bother the people downstream. So this is not an issue you check off. It's not something that you have one piece of legislation. We've done things with water infrastructure. You know, water law is very complicated with junior and senior water rights and permits, etc. So I think we have more work to do. But I would tell you, as your senator, I would have to be cognizant of every kind of water need, every kind. But I wouldn't want to put government overreach in, which would be mandatory conservation. It has to be a mindset, just like the sign that was out in front of Lakeway before we came in this evening. So I would pledge to you my commitment to listen to the people like the Water Coalition and others. Thank you.
You know, as a physician, I'd like to pride myself on being a professional listener who's willing to listen to all sides of the story and come up with solutions that work for everybody. And then as a small businesswoman and a conservative advocate at the Capitol, I have done that, but we have had to build coalitions of people with disparate interests. I've heard story after story, tanks going dry, wells going dry, Medina Lake going dry. We have some serious challenges as we move forward, and we need a good, comprehensive water plan based on science that's ever evolving and thinking about new ways and new technologies and new ideas to address the problem.
Thank you. Well, I'm very happy to see that you all agree that economic impact is an important factor that we need to look at when we look at water, and you all would be looking at as our senator. So if you were elected as our senator, would you or would you not support legislation that adds economic impact as one of the considerations for approval of surface water permits in the Texas Water Code? And say you are the senator, what steps would you take to make that start happening? Mr. Downey.
Not only would I support it, I would sponsor it. I think it is vital to this district, Senate District 24, that economic impact be considered. That's a large part of how we got where we were in the last round. If economic impact was considered, the economic impact on taking hundreds of thousands of acre-feet of water and sending them down to the rice farmers, I said earlier, there was a $100 million impact just on the Travis County area, let alone the rest of the Highland Lakes. That is a much bigger impact than the corresponding economic impact to the rice farmers. I'm a big believer in free market capitalism. You shouldn't have artificial price controls. That's what we have here. We have a government subsidy that is subsidizing rice farmers growing rice because of historical precedent. I don't think that's the way we should approach it. And I've had rice farmers tell me, well, we can't pay what you guys pay for water because then it wouldn't make sense to grow rice. And to me, that's the answer. If you can't pay a fair market rate and make money growing rice, you should find another use for your land and stop growing rice.
Really, and I can understand is where we are right now. I will tell you that there's precedent for that as well with regards to ag use, with taxing and other things. So I don't think we can solve that discussion tonight, but I will say economic impact is always something we look at as a parameter when you are looking at the overall needs of the state. Specifically here we're talking about Highland Lakes and other things, but I would also say that I think that would be a good factor to consider. For example, with the military infrastructure in the state of Texas, it's a $150 billion impact to the state every year. And yet we give very, very little to assist our military bases. So on the other hand, with the $100 billion impact, even just to this region for water, I think it's time, it would be reasonable to have a parameter to discuss the economic impact. Whether or not it's fair or not to agricultural use, I couldn't speak to that because I think that it's a different type of use. I know that as our cities grow, they will have more and more use with over 2,500 people moving to Texas a day from internal migration. We have a great business climate here. We're known for not having our income tax, etc. So I think it's a discussion that could be considered. Economic impact is used in many discussions in how we use our resources in this state.
Judge, the answer to your question is absolutely, I would support that, because every factor needs to be considered when you're making decisions, and every constituent and every aspect of it and the way it touches everybody's life has to be considered. That being said, just imagine if we could empower our agricultural community and their water actually added value to their land and gave them a resource that they was a carrot. I'm more of a carrot person than a stick person. But imagine if, they as a carrot were encouraged to conserve water, and then they could sell that extra water to other folks that needed it. This has happened in Australia. They've done some things like that. So I think along those lines of considering the economic impact, we really have some ways to encourage people to be more frugal with their water, to give them extra sources of income and extra value to their property. And I think we can really do some great things through that. Thank you.
Answers, and we all know in this room, and we are talking about this district, we've had a lot of concerns about the disparity in the pricing. Today, it's a lot different than it was 5 or 6 years ago. There's been little baby steps that a lot of people have taken steps, including our senator, with his assistance. Municipal and business owners today pay $145 an acre foot. The agriculture interest, who are friends of ours, we work with these people, so this is not the battlegrounds here we're talking about our friends and our neighbors, are paying $9 an acre foot. We strongly believe, that part of conservation is everyone paying a fair and equitable price. So, should you be elected, would you or would you not lend your support and your leadership to ensuring that all customers on water in your district, whether it's in the Highland Lakes District, in the LCRA Basin, or in other basins, that all your constituents, as customers, water customers, are paying a fair rate, and tell us how you understand that will assist in conservation and help with the new water supplies, fund new water supplies. And we'll start with Representative King.
Thank you for the question. So obviously if the price is high and you don't have the money to pay it, you're not going to use as much. That's a really simplistic answer, but the fact of the matter is I don't know all the ins and outs of agriculture. I do have a small ranch, but I will tell you that if there's a cost of water that's raised for ag use, then you'll see that when you're buying agricultural products. It just makes sense. So the question is, how will that be determined? It's by the numbers of people that are being involved in this thing. Like we know now with the rural-urban divide in the legislature, House and Senate. Harris County has 25 representatives and several senators. So we, as a regional area of small towns, medium-sized towns, agriculture, recreation, tourism, etc., we have so many diverse communities of interest in this district that it's hard to determine what the fair price is. I would suspect that there will be people looking at this in a comprehensive metric. I'm not sure that Senator Frazier, he's been, as they say, the guardian of the lakes for so long. I don't know if this has been brought forth over and over to figure out the fair pricing, but that's the whole conundrum of doing this. What is fair? What industry is able to say what is fair? And that's what I think we do need to look at. And again, water is complex. It'll be up to you people in this room, to bring your concerns about your area to the legislature. Because for every other place in this Texas great state, they have different complete water issues in many ways. And that's why it's such a problem.
Well, I think this is a good example. Most senators serve on 4 or 5 committees in the Senate, and so my hope is to serve in the Agricultural Affairs and Water Committee for just this reason. I think that water pricing brings up an intriguing concept, like I was speaking about earlier, bringing a value to water and bringing a value to land that incentivizes farmers and ranchers to conserve water and gives them the economic means through selling their extra water back to folks who need it to be able to improve their lands and improve their irrigation and be a part of the process of conserving the water. We also are seeing it in our municipalities. In a lot of our municipalities and our water rates, the more water you use, the more you pay per unit of water that you're using. And so we're already kind of seeing some of this in our market. But I think continuing to explore that, being sure that we are fair to our agricultural areas. I might disagree with one of my opponents and say the lakes actually were also meant for irrigation. I don't know that they were so much meant for boats running around on them, but we have clearly seen what the impact of that is to our state, and we have to be respectful of those entities as well. But I do think we need to maintain our water, not just for our urban areas and for our recreational use, but also for our rural areas as well, to be sure that we have the food produced in the state that we need. Thank you.